expanding consciousness with her comedy tonight.
Are you ready to be domed? So my name is Palak Patel, and I noticed that multiple people in this town have mispronounced my name, so I just want to get that cleared up front. So everyone shut the fuck up in the back and listen. It's pronounced Palak Patel. Okay, on three, let's all do it together. 1, 2, 3. Palak Patel. Wow, you guys are a really submissive audience. It's gonna make my job very easy tonight. So, as you can tell by my name, I'm Indian, but I grew up in America. And it's really confusing for the Mexican people because they look at me and they're like, "Tú ves moreno, pero hablas como gringa." I'm like, yeah, it's a little confusing for me too. I identify as bisexual. Although I recently came to the realization that I only want to date men. I know, it's like so embarrassing. Like to consciously choose to date a man in this political climate, like, that's social suicide. So I think dating for anyone on the gay spectrum, on the gender fluid spectrum. Has anyone seen Love on the Spectrum? This show helped me make so much sense of my dating history and failures. And you see all of these people that are struggling with things that all of us do, like wanting to be accepted, being afraid of rejection, the awkwardness that comes with intimacy. And then as I'm watching this show, I was like, I have one complaint. Is that the show really only focuses on like the white autistic experience. Yeah. Because Asian autistic people exist too. Okay? Indians treat neurodivergence like an extreme sport. They find out there's like something different with their kid's brain. Like, oh, they can just like read a bunch of shit and memorize it really quickly. We have to find a way to exploit this for academic achievement. And so all these like white kids on the show have all these like quirky interests like anime and like lions and medieval festivals. Indian kids get one special interest, and that's chosen by their parents, and it's academic achievement. And let me tell you, Indians dominate the autistic spectrum. And the best example of this is the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Have you seen these kids? It's been an Indian kid who's won the National Spelling Bee for like 10 years. And you look at these kids and they treat like being a nerd as like an Olympic sport. You can tell that they've been homeschooled after they've already gone to regular school. Like, only Indian kids had homework assigned to them by their teachers and their parents. Like, I was on track to be like one of these elite Indian nerds. And then, like, when I was in 3rd grade, I took a test and I like scored off the charts. And so they put me into the gifted and talented program. Like, that's what they called autism in the 90s. It was gifted and talented. Except I was also gifted with anxiety. So my academic achievement level kind of like plateaued. I ended up at a 2nd-tier school and ended up being a management consultant. Very basic, very basic. But Indians also exist on a spectrum. So there's like Indian people from India, there's Indian immigrants like my parents, And then there's second generation, which is like myself, who was born and raised outside of India. And so immigrant parents are like really focused on like their kids not struggling and giving them a better life. But what they don't realize is problems don't go away. Suffering doesn't just disappear generation to generation. Like my parents have like poor immigrant problems, and now my brother and I have rich, bougie Indian problems. And so an example of this is my brother decided to get a dog, and he paid $1,000 to purchase a purebred golden retriever. Yeah, that's like some white shit right there. And so my dad has no concept. Like he was like, oh, he just found this blonde puppy on the street and just brought it home. And so we're all at dinner, and so we have this rule in our household. It's called, don't tell dad how much money you spent. And then one of us slips up and like tells the truth. So my brother is complaining about how they're increasing the prices at like his doggy daycare. And then he lets out the amount that he's spending. My dad's like, you spend $800 a month to send your dog to school when you have a backyard that's free? Like, they don't understand that in America, your dog has to be like, go through obedience training. They have to be socialized. You can't leave them alone for too long. Otherwise, they get separation anxiety. Like, my parents didn't believe I had anxiety. You think they're gonna believe my brother's dog is at risk for anxiety? And so I'm laughing at this whole conversation, and then my dad looks at me, and I'm like, he's like, you're no better. He's like, I see all your photos on Instagram. All you're doing is traveling and eating and drinking. Like, why do you need to go to Europe to eat and drink when there's so many restaurants in America? I'm like, first of all the food in America is genetically modified, Dad. Second of all, you really can't find a decent Bordeaux in America, so you have to go to France for that. So then I decide to tell my dad my next international trip is to India. And he's like, why are you going there? 'Cause we're from there? And he's like, why do you think I left? There's so many people, it's so hot, it smells like shit. Why would you want to go? And then I made the mistake of telling him the reason that I was going. I'm going to get my yoga teacher training certification. And he's like, dude, every Indian person knows how to do yoga. He's like, I can teach you yoga. You don't need to go to India for that. And I'm like, no, I need to get like a Yoga Alliance certified training program. Otherwise, none of the studios are gonna hire me. I can't just be like, this random Indian person taught me yoga, so now I'm qualified to do this. And he looked at me and he's like, you're gonna quit your job as a management consultant that makes $100,000 a year to go teach yoga to white people. I was like, yeah, that's the plan. And in that moment, I realized that I had veered so far off the spectrum of Indian people that I landed in a new territory called white privilege. Because who else can just quit their job and move to Mexico and teach yoga? I swear, I wasn't always this white. Okay, when I arrived to Mexico, I didn't even know how to swim. Okay, not knowing how to swim is like classic brown people shit. In America, brown people don't know how to swim. Well, except Mexicans, because that's how they got there. You can't get mad about that. See, I have white privilege and I have brown privilege. And brown privilege includes our ability to say racist shit about other brown people. It's just how it works. And so now I know how to swim, I know how to free dive, I'm learning how to kite surf, and now I own a single piece of sporting equipment that costs more than my parents' mortgage. I think if my dad found out how much I spent on a duotone kite, he would disown me. They're very expensive. I also have a dog now. I found out on Instagram, a very reliable source of information, that rescuing a pit bull is considered white girl shit. I didn't know, I just really like tuxedo pits. And so my dog has an interesting rescue history. So she was rescued from La Paz by a white person, and then I had to rescue her from an adult playground called The Ditch. The headline reads, Indian woman with white privilege rescues dog from white man with Peter Pan complex. True story, true story. You know, Terry knows. And so speaking of Peter Pan complexes, let's talk about the spectrum of eligible men in this town. Okay? When I lived in New York, I used to date like men, women, different ethnicities, like lawyers, professors, etc. Now it's just a steady stream of white dudes from California and Colorado. Okay? I like to call it the Bermuda Triangle of single men in their 30s and 40s who have never been married and probably never will. Okay, and the mystery is that there are 3 qualities: hot, emotionally stable, has a job. And the mystery is why you can't find a single one that has all 3. You only get 2 out of 3, and if you're really unlucky, 1 out of 3. And so I've just been hanging out in this corner over here where all the hot, emotionally unstable, rich guys are. And you know in the movie Barbie, like each Ken doll has like a little quirk and has a little activity, like tennis Ken and golfing Ken. So each of the bros have their own unique kind of emotional stability that is caused by their drug of choice. So we have finance bro, and his emotional instability is driven by the ups and downs of the stock market and his use of cocaine. Okay, they're fun, okay? Don't knock these finance guys, but you have to be very careful. Okay, you have to get them when the stock market is up and they're not crashing out. They've always got like tickets to Coachella, they've got like, they want to take you to skiing in Aspen, okay, Yacht Week in Croatia. Say yes to all that shit. But like Cinderella, when her carriage turns into a pumpkin, you want to end it with this guy when the vacation ends. Because you don't want to wake up on Monday morning when he turns into a strung out gremlin. Okay? Then the second type is the spiritual bro, whose emotional instability is driven by all of the psychedelics he does. And every time you try and talk to him about his excessive use of mushrooms and LSD and ayahuasca and peyote and all the things, he goes, but babe, they're not drugs, it's medicine. And this guy's fun. If you're looking for a spiritual transformation, okay, if you want to go to yoga teacher training, he's your guy. But at some point, you know, you have to come back to realities, and these guys are committed to like living in the 5th dimension and talking to aliens, so. And then the last guy is the tech bro, whose emotional instability is created by the fact that he lives in a total state of delusion driven by his ketamine use. This bro doesn't have any redeemable qualities, okay? Do not go to Burning Man with him, do not get into a Sprinter van, just say no and walk in the other direction. Okay, those delusions are scary. You don't want to wake up in some polyamory cult in San Francisco, okay? Be careful, ladies. So then one day it finally happened. I met a guy with all 3 qualities. Okay, and I was just like so into him. I was like, oh my God, he's so smart. He just like quotes existential philosophers. He like reads books. And I was so excited that I failed to notice a small problem. I had been with short guys before, but I was like, how short are you? And he responds, it was over text message, and he's like, 5'4". And I was like, okay, that's kind of short, but I'm not gonna let a few inches keep me from this white whale. So we keep talking, I really like him, he's just like really funny and smart and all the things, and then I found out, unlike the other bros that had like a single category of drug, this one did all of them. The cocaine, the pharmaceuticals, the psychedelics, all of it. And I'm like, how can you be this coherent and this smart and like do an insane amount of drugs? So I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I'm like, there's only two explanations or two possibilities. One, this man is a genius, like Mensa level, like top 1% IQ, that his prefrontal cortex is so developed that no drug can impair his thinking. And then the other possibility is that he's a sociopath. I'm like, he went to Harvard, the Unabomber went to Harvard. I think this is like a high risk, high reward situation. And so I had to do a little catch and release and send this white whale back into the Bermuda Triangle. But the one thing is, like, I always date short men. Okay, short men are where it's at. They are the ones doming. Yes. Okay. My ex-boyfriend, I met him on a dating app, and he wrote 5'7.5". Okay, so honest. He didn't round up. I know you motherfuckers who are 5'10" and lie all the time that you're 6 foot. No one's believing you. And so I really liked this guy. We had been dating for a while. And so we went on vacation to London, and it was like a sexy, romantic celebration. We went to the strip club, because when you date a bisexual woman, ass and titties is always on the menu. And so we get back, and we're fooling around, and then all of a sudden, we feel a warm liquid. And he just looks at me straight in the eye, with no judgment, no look of disgust on his face, and he goes, babe, did you just pee on me? I'm like, oh my God, I'm drunk, but like not that drunk. And so then we look at each other, we look at the liquid, we look at each other, we're like, no way. I always thought squirting was something that the porn industry made up. I didn't think it was real. And there's men who spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to take workshops to like find the woman's G-spot. Yeah, in the spiritual community, it's called Tantra teachers. And this man just went, oops, made you squirt. Okay, a man who's 6 foot with no self-esteem issues would never be able to accomplish that. So if you're a short king, I want you to identify yourself. If you are between the sizes of 5'4" and 5'8", raise your hand. Woo! I feel like one of you has a story to tell. One of you has a story to tell about how you gave some woman the best sex of her life. Okay, I'm giving you guys a chance to promote yourselves. Reveal yourselves. No? No takers? None? What's your name? Tom. Tell us about your story of giving a woman the best sex of her life. No, we're all being shy, we're being humble. That's okay, that's okay. Now that I've decided that short men are the doms of the male dating pool. So now we're gonna shift our focus to the female dating pool. And I think that bisexual women are the doms. And it's not just because I identify as such. It's because bisexual women are people who tried to be gay and couldn't go all the way. If you know, you know. Okay, we went like all the way to one end of the spectrum, and then we're like, no, we're just gonna stand in the middle. The view's great from here. And no, the real reason why is because no one loves men more than a woman who's failed at being a lesbian. Okay, we've been to the other side and we get it. Okay, we have understanding, we have compassion for you guys. And when men, like straight men date bisexual women, they go on this like hero's journey. Like they think that the end of the tunnel is like a threesome. And so there's an initial phase of like intrigue, like, oh, there's something different about her. She's quirky, she's weird. And then, so like one of the first guys I dated after failing at lesbianism, we were like on our third or fourth date. And it was one of those places where they have like the low tables. It's like very cozy, very intimate. And he's telling me about his divorce. So he had been married, recently gotten divorced. And he was saying how he felt all this pressure when he was married, that he had to provide, that he had to be the strong one. And he was always like taking care of everything. And all he wanted was like to feel appreciated. And he didn't feel like he could get that. And I just looked at him and I was like, why do you feel like you need to perform or provide to be loved? Like, don't we all just get loved for being who we are? And he looked at me and his eyes started to like swell up. And then like a waiter just brought back this giant platter of like bread and dips and cheese and all the things. And he starts crying. And I'm like, fuck, I really want this bread right now. I'm not used to men being this vulnerable and crying on the third date. And so he opens up and he talks about how one of his core memories of like feeling loved was like when his parents made him do chores and they were like so happy that he like did the chores and did his homework and did all the things. And this is how the spectrum works. So in a heteronormative dating situation, the third date is usually when you have sex. Like it's just kind of like an unspoken thing. And in a queer dating relationship, the third date is when you open up about your deepest fears and you talk about your childhood trauma. And so in this moment, this man was able to be vulnerable in a way that he hadn't before. And it changed him. You know, his consciousness had expanded. He like took off this mask that he'd been wearing about what a man should be and what he should be doing. And it was really a beautiful thing. Because ultimately, we're all just consciousness experiencing itself through the illusion of separation. And all we can do is just find love on the spectrum of life. Because love is the ultimate dom. That is it for this evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Bajaja, for hosting.